But I want to begin with something that actually breaks my heart. Something that I can't quite believe has been ushered into the mainstream of British political discourse. Something that is, I suppose, a consequence of treating people like Nigel Farage as if they had anything valid or decent to contribute to our country. That weaponization of refugees and asylum seekers and immigrants in general that has polluted pretty much every corner of this country over the last decade, and particularly, of course, around that Brexit vote. It's not a word I use often anymore because it's a personal thing and it comes and goes, and it is often deployed by hypocrites and liars. But this is still ostensibly a Christian country. When King Charles is crowned, it will be as part of the head of the Church of England, a branch of the Christian faith. And what Jesus had to say about decency and kindness is, regardless of whether you believe in some people like to say sky fairies, and I understand why, regardless of whether you believe in it or not, what Jesus actually says, or what the Bible, what the New Testament actually teaches us about being kind and decent is clear. And it seems to me very strange that the Conservative politicians who wear their Christianity most prominently on their sleeves, the ones that actually talk about it, are the ones who often seem to engage in the most callous and disgusting of conduct. But they used to be on the fringes, these people. They used to be beyond the boundaries of acceptability. They used to be, you'd see them at conference and you'd walk the other way. They were not people who had or would ever breach the mainstream. I would say, and I haven't got enough history to do this definitively, but I would say that probably from the point of Enoch Powell's disgusting rivers of blood speech, there was a resistance to base racism, to a sort of celebration, if you like, of treating people badly, appallingly, cruelly, callously, according to their origins, according to their ethnicity even, that even the Conservative Party balked at. Obviously, there were always elements of the old Monday Club. There were always people who struggled perhaps to disguise their bigotry, to mask their hatreds. But you kind of knew that they were never going to be destined for high office unless they kept the most toxic elements of their racism deeply, deeply hidden. And I don't even know if I can use the word racism in the context of this morning's conversation, because it's different. It's subtler than that. It's what you might call just a hatred of people based upon their origins. I'm going to play you a little excerpt from what is widely regarded as one of the finest speeches ever given by a human being. And then I'm going to play you a little excerpt from an interview that our current Home Secretary gave yesterday. They both speak of dreams, both of these people. In the first instance, Dr. Martin Luther King, and in the second instance, Suella Braverman. They both have dreams. I'd like you just to focus for a moment on how different those dreams are. Here's Dr. King.
I have a dream. My poor little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character.
And here is the current Home Secretary.
I would love to be here saying, claiming victory. I would love to be having a front page of the Telegraph with a plane taking off to Rwanda. That's my dream. That's my dream. It's
when
my
will
obsession.
that happen?
What's your dream? What do you dream of? Happy children, I suppose. If you're a parent, you can only ever be as happy as your unhappiest child, is something a very wise person said to me. You dream of winning the lottery, maybe, or someone ill in your family getting better. Dream of financial security. Dream of peace. Dream of a victory for Volodymyr Zelensky's Ukraine. You dream of all manner of things. Imagine dreaming of desperate people being deported against their will to a country that they may never have heard of before. Dreaming of that. And living in a country, or rather living in a bubble, where relishing that prospect is not just acceptable, but even perhaps admirable. Sitting there, being interviewed by someone from the Daily Telegraph, sitting there, smiling and smirking, grinning and gurning, while essentially describing the delight you would take in trafficking people against their will to the other side of the world. People who may well be genuine refugees, because they don't even start the process under this despicable policy. They don't even start the process of assessing the application until they get to Africa. And if the process is successful, if the application is successful, they stay in Rwanda. Even Tories trumpeting their support for this policy didn't understand that when they were trumpeting it. Priti Patel's policy, inherited by Suella Braverman, who, even her predecessor Priti Patel has turned upon Liz Truss already, but Braverman turned upon Priti Patel, accused her and Boris Johnson of not doing enough to end immigration. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. And it is moments like this when you realise how far we've fallen. You know the old adage about boiling a frog, or the incremental nature of decline. If someone turned up and handed you the end product, we'd take to the streets in protest. But when it happens drip by drip, when it happens step by step, when it happens, by degree, we don't notice. And now you've got somebody, an actual Home Secretary, not saying something which I would find pretty repellent, but would at least be something you could file under plausible, saying something like, it's terrible that it's come to this, but the system simply cannot sustain these levels of application, and therefore the Rwandan policy is a necessary step that we have to take. At least perhaps even pretending to be doing it reluctantly, or to be doing it through necessity rather than desire, but to dream of it, to dream of deporting people who may well have fled war, famine, flood, pestilence. We want to keep the biblical theme going. Genuine refugees, real asylum seekers. Well, everyone is a real asylum seeker until the application is complete. Successful asylum seekers, genuine refugees, dreaming of deportations. Have another listen to those two speeches. And then I think I'm going to ask you, what is wrong with this woman? That's all. What on earth is wrong with her? How can anybody have ended up this curdled and cruel? Not simply by supporting a policy that all right-minded people, certainly all people who lay claim to any form of genuine religious faith, must find disgusting. Not that. I can understand how your head might have been boiled so completely that you are persuaded that the main threat to this country is posed by people who are desperate to live here. It's not the support for the policy, it's the delight in its implementation. It's the idea that when most of us dream of winning the lottery or seeing our football team lift the FA Cup, Suella Braverman lies in bed at night dreaming of deporting completely innocent and decent fellow human beings. What the hell is wrong with her? 0345 6060 973. Because here are those two dreams. First of all, Martin Luther King.
I have a dream. My four little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character.
And here is Suella Braverman, the current Home Secretary of the United Kingdom.
I would love to be here saying, claiming victory. I would love to be having a front page of the Telegraph with a plane taking off to Rwanda. That's my dream. That's my dream. It's
when
my
will
obsession.
that happen?
That's my dream. It's my obsession. Why? What's wrong with her? What happened? Who hurt her? How does someone end up in a position like this? And we may add another element to the conversation, which I am not wholly comfortable with, because I think that the racist rhetoric deployed by Rupert Hook last week when talking about Kwasi Kwarteng is a very important alarm, a very important warning bell about the sort of territory that I might explore with you a little bit later. But is it different when a child of immigrants, is it in any way different for a child of immigrants to end up in such a sort of festering boil of a place than it is for those of us who are not children of immigrants? I genuinely don't know, but we'll just begin with that simple question. What's wrong with this woman?